Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hello. Good afternoon, and welcome to our May 24th Rotary Club of Columbus meeting. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right. How about that? Okay. Who said that? Is that better? Aha! Technology is either awesome or dangerous, depends on whose hands it's in. Welcome to our club meeting today. Cedric Hill, your president, and we call our meeting to order. If you would be so kind as to join me with a pledge of allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This morning, I'd like to call on Ms. Debbie if she would come and give us invocation according to her faith tradition.
Hi, everybody. Let's pray. Father, as we prepare to celebrate Memorial Day, I want to thank you for the brave men and women who have sacrificed for our freedom, even the freedom that we have to meet here today and share ideas and service. I ask you to help us, Father, to honor their valor and their sacrifice and that of their families by living worthy of it, by seeking the best for others and our families, our community, our nation, and not seeking selfish individualism. Father, I thank you that as Rotarians we're called to respond this way in all we think, say, and do. And I ask for a spirit of unity and gratefulness in our nation today. I thank you, Father, for the blessings of this life, and I thank you for the blessings that we can be to one another. I ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Please remember the cans.
Thank you. I'd like to call on Miss Leanne if you're here. There you are for our news.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Here are today's headlines for Wednesday, May 24th. The story: the U.S. has a new status update on the risk of social media. Yesterday, U.S. Surgeon General sent a DM to the nation saying social media poses a profound risk of harm to kids' and teens' well-being. For years, there's been notification after notification about social media's potential effects on mental health, especially among children and teens, whose brains are still developing and more vulnerable to social media's addictive features. The report found that up to 95% of America's teens have a social media account. More than a third of them say they're double tapping, posting, and streaming almost constantly. Now, Murphy says that all this scrolling has contributed to depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem for most teens. And researchers still don't have a full screen grasp on the harms of social media use on teen mental health. However, recent studies found that the risk may be outweighing the likes. Now the Surgeon General is saying it's time for platforms and lawmakers to put teens' health first. What people are remembering today: Uvalde, Texas. Today marks 1 year since a gunman shot and killed 19 students, 2 teachers, at Robb Elementary School. It was one of the worst shootings in Texas history and the second deadliest school shooting in the U.S. Since the deadly massacre, parents are still waiting for officials and district attorney to release their reports on why it took police 77 minutes to confront the attacker. Columbus, Georgia. The Miracle Riders began their journey Monday morning that will take them to the 4 corners of the United States. The annual trek to raise money for good causes started as a solo ride by a Columbus restaurateur, Scott Resmeyer. Now there are nearly 24 riders. The riders are raising money for Columbus State University nursing program. But Resmeyer is clear that you can't do that without safety in the forefront of the 12,000-mile journey. This year's ride is 26 days and touching all 4 corners of the United States. Today's weather, the app said that it's 80 and cloudy. We all know that it's rainy and 65 outside. But the Dow Jones was down by 251 points today at 11:30 a.m. Have a blessed day and be a blessing to someone around you.
Thank you, Leanne. At this point, we call on Ms. Haley to share with us our visitors and guests today. Haley?
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce all of our visiting Rotarians and guests. We do have a visiting Rotarian from Sandy Springs, Mr. Jay Brackman. We're so glad that you're here today. And then for our guests, we'll welcome all of them at the end. We have Rotarian Ryan Clemens, who brought his daughter, Alexa, who is a recent grad from Columbus High School. Miss Sophia Mims is the granddaughter of Mr. Ian and Miss Julie Bond. Larry Campbell brought Lacey Harden today. She is the Vice President of Sales at Visit Columbus. Tyler Townsend brought Caleb Bradley, who is currently the intern with Townsend Wealth Management. Aline Lassiter brought Melanie's Close with Piedmont Columbus. And we always like to give a welcome to our Rotaract President, Dominique Babin. So let's give all of our guests a round of applause. We're so glad that you're here today.
To all our visitors and guests, we just want to re-welcome you and thank you for being with us, more especially our Rotarian brother that traveled down in inclement weather to be with us today. We welcome and thank you for being with us also. At this point, I'd like to call on Past President Michael, if you would come and introduce us to the Ralph Puckett Jr. Soldier of the Week.
President Cedric and fellow Rotarians, it's my honor and privilege today to introduce our special military guest, Staff Sergeant David Coyd, a 19D Cavalry Scout, career management NCO, who currently serves as the operations NCO at the United States Armor School here at Fort Moore, Georgia. Staff Sergeant Coyd was born in Savannah, but he considers Houston, Texas his home. Okay, good. And he enlisted in the U.S. Army in 2007. He attended one station unit training at Fort Knox. And since joining the Army, Staff Sergeant Coyd has served in multiple leadership positions. He's attended multiple military courses and schools, and he's highly decorated, having received over 18 awards and commendations, just several of which include the Army Commendation Medal with Valor, the Army Commendation Medal with 6 oak leaf clusters, the Army Achievement Medal with 6 oak leaf clusters, and the Army Good Conduct Medal with 5 oak leaf clusters. Staff Sergeant Coyd has had 3 deployments, 1 in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and 2 in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. He and his wife, Marie, live in Phoenix City, and they're the proud parents of a 3-year-old daughter, Ava, and a 15-year-old son, Alex. Staff Sergeant Coyd, we cannot begin to thank you and all your fellow soldiers enough for everything that you do for us each and every day. And as a small token of our appreciation, we have several things to present to you today. The first is a Rotary Challenge coin. I know you know what to do with that. And as the Colonel Ralph Puckett Jr. Soldier of the Week, we have a certificate for you. Also, we have a passport to the arts, and it's 2 tickets to any show that you and your wife would like to go to at the River Center, Columbus Symphony, the events and the exhibits at the National Infantry Museum, Columbus State University Theater Department, and the Springer Theater. And last but not least, we talked about Colonel Ralph Puckett, and this book is presented to you by the Rotary Club of Columbus in recognition and appreciation for dedicated service to this great country in which we are privileged to live. Rangers Lead the Way, signed by Colonel Puckett. And again, we thank you for being with us today, and you honor us with your presence. Please join me.
I just wanted to say thank you for everyone here allowing me to show up to today's event and be with you guys.
Staff Sergeant Coyd, again, it's our honor to have you as our guest today, and as Past President Michael said, please take back to the soldiers on Fort Moore how much we appreciate what you all do for us and what you do for our country. Let's give him a hand for being with us today. It's always great when we can have a new member introduced to our club, so we call on Ms. Maureen if you would come and give us a new member introduction.
All right,
Good afternoon. I am very happy to present for membership Miss Dana Solomon. Dana is a lifelong resident of the Columbus area. She and her husband Tony have 3 children, Austin, Andrew, and Maggie. She is a graduate of Columbus High School. She's an insanely proud graduate of Georgia Southern. What? Okay, I'm sorry. Georgia Southern University, where she received her bachelor's in justice studies. And then to Columbus State University, where she received her master's in public administration. She has been a misdemeanor probation officer, a state probation officer, so she carried a gun and everything. Then she was the director of Midtown. Since 2013, she has been the director of the Muscogee County Adult Drug Court, which is, I had her in misdemeanor probation, but I'm really reliant on her in this role. She started it with Judge Frank Jordan, of course, who's been a member of this club, and I took over from him in 2018. She is on national and state faculties for that program. She is very passionate about the recovery community and all the services that we can offer. She's very active in getting grants to make our program really great. And I go around the state and do peer reviews of other drug court programs, so I'm a little bit biased, but I would say we have one of the better programs. But she is a great resource for anybody, drug court or not, who has issues or concerns about family members who have addiction issues. But I think she will be a great addition to this group, and so I present her for membership with her folder and her name tag and everything.
Ms. Dana, we too welcome you and glad to have you with us. And I think that for Georgia Southern, that would have been Go Eagles, right?
Oh, yeah.
Hail
Okay.
Southern, yes,
The Hail
sir.
Southern, okay. My daughter also went to Georgia Southern. But welcome to the
Brilliant young
club, and we look forward to getting to know you better and working with you. Let's give her a hand for being with us. While we're doing the photo, I'm going to call on 3 people at one time that's going to come individually and give us announcements. First, we'll have Alan Harkness, if you would come, followed by Amber Clark, if you would follow him, and then Christina Vogler, if you would follow Amber.
Thank you, President Cedric. Fellow Rotarians, I'm Alan Harkness. If you may not know, I'm over the New Generations 1 part of our Rotary Board. That includes Laws for Life, the Literacy Program, Star Student, Rotaract, all those sort of things. But we have the potential for an Interact Club. For those of you that don't know, I have to read the blurb here. Interact is a service club for youth, usually high school, who want to connect with other young people and have fun while serving their communities and learning about the world. If we do this, we need a champion from our club. We also need a champion from the high school. A student has reached out to us and asked us about Interact. Right now we're talking about it, so if it's something that you might be interested in, come see me after the club meeting and we'll start our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
All right, good afternoon. So I'm here to talk about Career Day. So I made an announcement last week, but we are in our Career Day time frame. So we have several middle schools that are looking for speakers, and we have a sign-up sheet in the back, and we'd love for you to commit about 30 to an hour of your time to go and speak to these individuals about either your career or the organization that you may be with, just to kind of give them a sense of what we have in our community, what opportunities are there for them as they grow into our community, because we want to retain our talented youth, right? So this is our opportunity as our club to go and provide this service to our youth. And we are people of action, right? So we had, I think, about 8 signups last week. I think I can get 13 more tables to sign up because that's about how many we need. So there's plenty of slots up there, and I do believe the first date starts June 8th, and it goes all the way through June. So check with Julie at the end over there, and if you have any questions, my contact information will be there, and I can give you additional information. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber.
Good afternoon. My name is Christina Vogler, and I am the program chair for the next Rotary year. On your table today are cards. Please excuse the date on them. We are recycling and reusing. But if you have any ideas, any interests, any suggestions for speakers and programs for next year, if you would please put that information on the card. If you specifically know someone and you know you can reach out to them and work with me to schedule them, terrific. If you've got a pie-in-the-sky dream of a speaker that you would like to have, that you have absolutely no contact with, or would begin to know how to get a hold of them, put their name down. Maybe somebody does, because we are looking forward to putting together a great year of programs, but we do need your help. And remember, everybody sitting at this table is a potential speaker too. You all have a wealth of information that may be of interest and value to our club. So please give it some thought. I am in the directory if you need to reach out to me directly, and are unable to fill out a card today, but I think Julie will have these cards here for the next few meetings in the back as well. So help us out, help us bring some great programs to next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Three great opportunities for us to serve and give back. The Rotaract that Alan was basically talking about is a great opportunity for us to give. And of course, Career Day is something that's been very successful in our years past, and it's very effective in our schools because we're looking at our young people now, and they need to see more of us, more activity, and more action actually from us. And of course, next year's programs, we're looking forward to an exciting year of world changers, I think is the vision for next year. Just a couple of announcements. Our breakfast mix will be Friday, the 26th, from 8 until 9, and our own president-elect, Tom Weinig, will be our guest, and will be speaking for us that morning. At this point, I'd like to call on Phil Schuler, if you'll come up and introduce today's program to us. Phil, if you will come.
It is my great pleasure to introduce my friend, Dr. Stephen Leichter. He is one of the most senior active endocrinologists in the United States. Raised in Long Island, attended Columbia University in undergrad and University of Virginia for the School of Medicine. He did most of his post-grad training at Barnes Hospital in St. Louis, and he also served in the United States Air Force after he completed his training. He started the diabetes program at the University of Kentucky in 1977, and while he was there, he initiated the first statewide public health program in diabetes in the United States with the Kentucky state government. He, for that effort, became a Kentucky Colonel and a Duke of Hazzard. He was the keynote speaker at the initial meeting of the Chinese Diabetes Association in Beijing. He was appointed the United States representative in diabetes to the World Health Organization, and in 1986, he chaired the Worldwide Conference on Diabetes for the United Nations. He is noted for being the second physician to ever use an insulin pump. He was the first physician to place an insulin pump on a patient in a hospital. In 1982, he became the first physician to ever give a clinical injection of recombinant human insulin. He moved to Columbus in Georgia in 1995. He has founded the largest diabetes center in western Georgia, which is now part of the Piedmont Clinic. He's married, has 5 children, and 6 grandchildren. And again, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Stephen Leichter.
Thank you all for having me today. The world, as you're going to hear in this talk, is quite connected. When I put this 18-year-old in 1982, or 1980 actually, in the University of Kentucky Hospital to put an insulin pump on him, this nurse helped me the whole day taking care of that patient. 40 years later, when we founded this commission, I tried to get as many organizations in town involved as possible, and one was St. Francis, which had just gotten a new director, Melody Trimble. And so I made an arrangement to meet this lady at Green Island for lunch and tell her about this, and I walked into Green Island and sat down, and this lady I was being introduced to, and she looked at me, and the first thing she did is start laughing. So why is she laughing? And she looked at me and she said, "You don't remember me, do you?" No. She was the nurse that took care of that patient with me in 1980. I want to tell you that this is a very interconnected program that I'm going to describe to you today, and I think at the end you'll see it may be very momentous. I want to thank my colleagues on the commission, the Mayor's Health Commission, my 2 co-chairs, Dr. Asante Hills from Valley Healthcare and Mr. Phil Schuler, and the members of the commission from Piedmont Healthcare, Melanie Close and Aileen Lassiter, who are here to support us today. And I want to tell you about a very important program. If I can have next slide, please. If I can ever get it up here. For reasons I'm going to tell you, shortly after his election, his initial election, Mayor Henderson became concerned about some worrisome health statistics about Columbus. Next slide. And this was the state of health of Columbus, Georgia in 2019. Next slide. In 2019, Columbus had the highest impact on its population of diabetes, stroke, heart disease, and cancer of any other major city in the state of Georgia. Next slide, please. In a front page article in USA Today last April, a year ago, it indicated that of all the major metropolitan areas in the state of Georgia, Columbus ranked dead last in the health status of its population. Of 182 major metropolitan areas in the United States, Columbus ranked 174th. Next slide, please. As in prior data sets, this was due in part and significantly to the impact of diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and cancer in the population. Next slide, please. This situation was impacting on the overall economy, the high level of poverty in Columbus, and 6 people are not able to work regularly, crime in Columbus, and health insurance costs for our businesses and overall economic loss. Next slide, please. So the mayor formed a health commission, which was a voluntary organization, to develop a plan to impact on this severe situation. The purpose of the commission was to develop an approach to try to reduce the impacts of these diseases and to develop an approach to extend the opportunities for wellness to all areas of the city and Columbus, including the disadvantaged areas. Next slide, please. And working with the mayor, we developed the Mayor's Health Commission, which is a commission that is formed into 2 parts. The first part, which is under my observation, is the Health Advocacy Panel, and the purpose of this panel was to develop messages which could motivate the population to follow a healthier lifestyle and reduce the impact of these diseases on the population. A second panel, which Mr. Schuler chairs, is a health access panel. Columbus has a number of very unique activities and organizations trying to extend healthy living opportunities into the disadvantaged areas of Columbus. And the purpose of this panel was to try to facilitate their work, coordinate their work so that it was more effective, and make sure that the city government was supporting that work as much as possible. And Ms. Close from Piedmont heads one of those activities, which is a mobile health van that is very effective in going through disadvantaged areas. Next slide, please. For the health advocacy program, Skip wanted us to develop a compelling message that linked diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer, and other conditions as much as possible together with a very simple message. Now, that may seem like a very tall order, and he wanted us to involve all the key elements in the city in trying to get this message out. I got involved because I used to work with Pops Barnes, who was a nurse at the time I first came to town at Piedmont. And Pops had known some of the things that we had done. One of the things that you don't know that we did was in 2006, we competed with Harvard, University of California, and others for a grant from Microsoft Foundation to try to show how computers could impact on the health of the population in the city. And we developed a program with all the 7th grade classes in the city schools, which was a competitive program of activity, and we kind of had each school compete with each other, and the school that did the most activity under this grant was going to get a prize. Well, we won the grant. And so we developed this program called Walk to Microsoft. And that program made the front page of the Washington Post. So because of that, Pops suggested that I see if I could come up with a message, and that's what I'm going to show you now. So I want to introduce you to the health advocacy program of the Commission, and to give you an idea of what it entails and why this one message incorporates all those diseases. Next slide, please. And the message concerns the apple body shape. And this is not in any way shown to stigmatize people that have this shape, but to give you an idea that if you have that shape, or if loved ones have that shape, they need your concern before they ever get any of these diseases. Next slide, please. The apple body shape, oops, I didn't know I had to print out my talk, is defined by the World Health Organization as someone where the circumference around their waist exceeds the circumference around the hips. The more the circumference around the waist exceeds the circumference around the hips, the more significant that shape is. There's a fat pad in the abdomen called the omental fat pad that configures the shape, whether you have an apple or a pear shape. The thicker the fat pad is, the more hormones it makes. It turns out the omental fat pad makes more hormones than any other specific tissue in the body. And most of these hormones, as you're going to find out, you don't want. The thicker the fat pad is, the worse the lifestyle is, the more of these hormones it makes. And most of these hormones are injurious to a person's health. Next slide, please. People with an apple shape have a greater risk of diabetes, stroke, heart disease, hypertension, cancer, osteoporosis, and osteoarthritis. Next slide, please. The apple body shape is associated with a 3-fold increase in the risk of heart disease, a 14-fold increase in the risk of joint replacement surgery, a 3-fold increase in the risk of breast cancer in women. And women who get breast cancer who have an apple shape have a worse prognosis than women who do not have an apple body shape. A 2.5 times increase in the risk of hypertension and 4 times the risk of diabetes. Next slide, please. And here's the common message. Here's the link that brought it all together. Why does the apple shape do this? Because of cytokines. Now, I'm sure no one in this room has ever heard of cytokines, but cytokines are a group of hormonal factors made by the fat pad, the omental fat pad. They cause painless, generalized tissue inflammation. They accelerate the rate that you put cholesterol in your arteries, therefore they accelerate the risk of stroke and heart attack. They tear up healthy bone, and that's what causes an increased risk of osteoporosis. They inflame large joints. Studies, for example, from China show that people with an apple body shape have almost 10 times the risk of having joint replacement surgery in their life as people who do not have an apple body shape. They stimulate the formation of cancer cells, and one of the cytokines kills the cells that make insulin. Now, the apple shape, the omental fat pad, also makes hormones that block insulin from working, and that induces insulin resistance. So these people then have a combination of decreasing effectiveness of insulin and increasing destruction of the cells that make insulin, and that makes them at higher risk for diabetes. Next slide, please. Unhealthy lifestyles stimulate excess cytokine secretion. So the more high-fat or high-sugar food a person has, that directly stimulates cytokine secretion. The thicker the abdomen is, the more cytokines you're likely to make. Next slide, please. And again, this just shows what I just said about what cytokines do to different body tissues. Next slide, please. So Columbus is a city with a substantial health problem. But working on the commission, we have now come up with the first plan that anyone has ever heard of to try to improve the health of the population of an entire city. And I think this can be done in Columbus, but not a lot of other places, because we are one of the most connected cities in the United States. And this program now is about to launch, and it turns out it's getting some notice. On Friday, I'm having a conversation with a colleague who is the chairman of an international council on population health and diabetes. And he has been looking for a model city that has developed a program that can be exported to other places to try to improve the health status of that population. And they are considering making Columbus their model city. So we may be the worst city statistically in the state of Georgia, but we are also the first city that has the opportunity to implement a plan to comprehensively enhance the health of the entire population of the city. So I very much appreciate the opportunity to come here and talk to the Rotary Club and enlist all of you in our efforts to do this and to at least make you informed about it. And I'm proud to live here. Thank you.
Just hang on for a second to see if you've got questions.
I'll be glad to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
I'm curious through your research for this process, are any specific environmental factors or any? Is there anything that you came up with, maybe a combination of factors as to why Columbus is the least healthy city out of all the other ones?
Well, interestingly, we just took those statistics and ran with it. I think that the people from Columbus Regional are more likely to answer that question because Ms. Close and colleagues have done research over the years. They had compiled some of these statistics. It's thought that part of the problem is that we have a larger disadvantaged population than some other cities in Columbus. And people that live in disadvantaged areas can't get access to healthy shopping. The food store they shop at is the corner gas station. There are no supermarkets there. And that's the reason that under Mr. Schuler's coordination, we have excellent activities such as Olivia Amos's mobile shopping activities and her health farm that you can see on 2nd Avenue, the mobile health van of Columbus Regional. Now, the commission is not responsible for those. These interesting and extraordinary people develop that themselves. We're trying to simply coordinate what they do and make the city government more supportive of what they do so that they're more effective. But we think it's, number one, greater population that's disadvantaged. Number two, it turns out there's a band of obesity by statistics from 2018 from the CDC, that stretches from Macon. It's about a 75 or 100 mile wide band. Stretches from Macon across western Georgia through Alabama to the eastern edge of Mississippi. And that particular band has the highest density of obesity in the United States. Now, why that's true, nobody knows. It could be that part of that is Cherokee Indian blood, because American Indian populations, once they were not living off the land and very active, they had a higher occurrence of diabetes and heart disease. It could be endogenous diet, and nobody's really sure about that. What we are sure of is that we do have a greater clinical load of people with these problems, and as a city, it's really taking its toll on us. Yes, ma'am.
What would entail being a model city for this international coalition? Would there be funding involved? What would we get out of it?
What would we get out of it? I think what we get out of it is that the model that we're developing would get tested in international circles and see if they like the model. But right now, according to the people that are involved with this, we're the farthest ahead in doing this of any other city they've encountered. So that's a good starting point. Now, beyond that, I'll find out on Friday more.
What can you share about the model?
Well, the model is what I've described, that we have two different panels. One is trying to enlist, I'll share more detail about that. every element we can in the city to get this word out. So we've been involved with every TV station, radio stations. Joe Brandon has been very supportive. PMR has been very supportive. We've been involved with every health organization in town. Piedmont's been very supportive. St. Francis has been very supportive. Valley Healthcare has been supportive. We've been involved with a lot of the business organizations in town, AFLAC. We've been involved with the city, the institutions of higher learning in town, such as Columbus Tech and Columbus State. And we're trying to get this common message through all of their pipelines to all of the consumers, employees, and customers that they have. And everybody has been supportive of that. And when we launch, that's what that activity is going to be. Phil, you want to talk a little more about?
So on the access side, we've just tried to coordinate the many really great organizations in Columbus who are doing work on the ground. So Piedmont and the Mobile Health Clinic. The Department of Health has a mobile health clinic. Valley Healthcare. There's a mobile food farmers market that Olivia Amos and the Food Mill runs. And then we've also engaged with the city, Columbus Parks and Rec, with Holly Browder, who is running a mobile recreation vehicle. And so the plan is to kind of coordinate all of these many different things in the many areas of Columbus that just don't have good access, to bring the mobile vehicles in so that they have access to health care. They have access to being able to have a social worker that as they get maybe some things treated within the van, they can get connected to how to get insurance. We have a significant population of uninsured in Columbus. The mobile recreation vehicle can then just provide a safe environment to encourage activity. We're partnering with the Sheriff's Department, with the CPD, and officers and deputies off duty are going to volunteer to be a part of that mobile recreation program, and just to kind of, as a secondary benefit, build relationships between law enforcement and the children, and then just get the healthy food access. You know, instead of going to the gas station, have a mobile vehicle that they can get some healthy foods and someone that can teach them a little bit about how to cook those foods.
And we just got Fort Benning involved, and we also just got the VA program in town involved. Yes, sir.
What are you doing working with the Board of Education? Our young folks is going to be the critical mass of this coming in the future. That's going to be one of the things that, the military right now is having a rough time of recruiting physically fit young people for the military. And I think that's the target audience that one of the things that you need to do is hit those in early education of properly diets and properly eating.
That's right, John. We have a guy named Jeff Battle, some of you may know Jeff, who is on the commission. And as we get ready to launch, he is going to get us involved with the school district to try to bring every opportunity we can to them to do more about informing them about healthy living opportunities.
Leichter, if you would go back, you mentioned relativity to poverty and this health component. You talked about distance, which was one thing, but could you elaborate a little bit more on poverty and the effect it has on health?
Well, first of all, poor people are afraid to go to get health care because they're afraid of the bills they'll get from them. They have less mobility to go to the doctor. They're less equipped to deal with the healthcare system. You know, as all of you know, it's complicated to go see the doctor. And when a disadvantaged person comes, it can be overwhelming. But that doesn't mean they can't be successful. I always tell Melanie that the most compliant diabetic patient I have ever had in my whole career was a totally indigent 14-year-old that Columbus Regional from the mobile van sent to us. And that he's now about 20. And he is the most extraordinary type 1 diabetic I've ever taken care of. Everything is meticulous. So, but it does take a lot different approach to them. It takes a lot of different understanding of what their needs are going to be successful with them.
Other questions? Okay, let's give him a hand for being here today. Dr. Leichter and both you and Phil, earlier this year, we had a program that was actually done by George Washington Carver Martin Luther King Community Farm and Garden, which is over on Martin Luther King. We need to make sure we connect you with those guys also, because the conversation that they were having in proximity to the farm and the local grocery store. And I really want to celebrate you and salute you for going to people that are not going to actually come to you. The response that you're doing is going to make a tremendous difference in our community. And thank you so much. As a token of our appreciation for you being with us today and presenting to us today, we're going to put a children's book in our local library and graft it with your name on it. And again, we thank you so much for being with us. Let's give him a hand again for being with us. Staff Sergeant Court, we again appreciate you for being with us, and we thank you for all you do and all the soldiers on Fort Moore do. And we invite you to come back and join us at any other time that you would like to and be our guest. To our visiting Rotarian and other guests, we thank you for being with us today. At this point, I'd like to call on Ms. Debbie. If you all would stand with me, she's going to lead us in our four-way test.
In all that we think, say, and do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Have a great week, everyone.